These are pretty exciting times, and I will say I was asked to speak about the state of apprenticeship in Washington, and I will say that it's very healthy. We are a system in expansion mode right now. When I pulled some numbers to kind of give you an idea of where the system has gone in the last year. So last year, June 1st, we had 11,000 active apprentices in the system, and when I ran the numbers just yesterday, we had 12,800 apprentices in the system as of June 1st of this year. So definitely on the rise. We owe this expansion to our traditional building and construction trade programs. They are thriving. Yep, Mark Martinez will attest to that. You cannot find an electrician in this state right now. And in fact, if you are a certified electrician, I've got like 10 job offers for you. So come and talk to me afterwards. But the electricians, carpenters, and laborers are leading the way in terms of our system numbers. They dominate in terms of registrations and completions in our system. They are being challenged a little bit by a non-traditional occupation, not wholly non-traditional, but the firefighters have a statewide package that has shown great promise across these local jurisdictions where the local fire districts may not have the resources to train to the level they need to, so they've come together in a statewide association to achieve economies of scale, and they have added tremendous numbers to their system of apprentice training. So that's very exciting. We are also adding new energy to the system through some grant initiatives, which I will speak to in a moment. We've got quite a number of pretty innovative and cool things going on here in the state of Washington. So first, I wanted to just speak to a little bit, give some more due to our building trades partners. Many years ago, Governor Locke, through an executive order, started apprenticeship utilization requirements in the state of Washington. Subsequent to Locke's executive order, Governor Gregoire codified that with her first piece of legislation in her tenure as our governor. And we have now apprenticeship utilization requirements in public contracting across the public contracting system. It's fairly ubiquitous, even including local jurisdictions who have adopted and, frankly, in some cases led the way for apprenticeship requirements on public works. But we've seen that system grow. We've seen it create some consternation within the contracting community. We've seen it create some disconnects in terms of how it's implemented by public agencies. And to that end, the governor convened a task force last year to examine ways to streamline reporting and recording of apprentice labor hours, improve the implementation through contract language, and tools for agencies to implement these requirements. We are finding through the work of this task force that there are many disconnects in the system. But while there are disconnects, there are also some best practices emerging, and we have our State Department of Transportation to thank for one of our best apprenticeship utilization programs in terms of valid data, in terms of accountability for hitting the 15% requirement. So it's been a very interesting discussion over the last several months, and we are now faced with a June 30 deadline to deliver recommendations to the governor to improve the delivery of apprenticeship utilization requirements in public contracting. So we think we have some answers. We kind of had been discussing with some larger agencies and the Department of Labor and Industries leadership about the fact that all public works in the state interface with L&I's prevailing wage intents and affidavit system. So we have a central point of contact for all of that information to come together. So when we started into this, we kind of had an eye on a potential answer, right? We think that one of the recommendations coming out of this task force will be to streamline reporting and recording through that PWIA system. And it also, L&I is a little bit ahead of the game in terms of the fact that we've already implemented a certified payroll option within that prevailing wage system. and it's a voluntary option right now for awarding entities to use, and we are seeing some significant traction in terms of volunteers coming in, early adopters using that weekly certified payroll option in our system. So we just have to get to the end of being able to produce data in real time that can be used by agencies to hold contractors accountable. Within the task force work, we don't want to leave the employer community hanging. Certainly our employers have told us that the recording of these hours is very redundant. They are tracking certified payrolls and reporting that through one system, and then they're tracking apprentice and journeyman labor hours and reporting that through another system. And they've been crying out for many years for us to streamline those requirements. So we think we may have an answer for them. We need to certainly get better information out to people in terms of toolkits and education materials so that everyone knows how to comply and what happens if they don't comply. So look for some formal recommendations coming out at the end of June with the governor's action subsequent to that. And we are ready to move in whatever direction the governor has us go. So in addition, along the apprenticeship utilization requirements, I'm coming to the Energy Summit, and I would be remiss if I didn't comment on a very unique incentive to use apprentices that grew out of a partnership between the environmental community and the building construction trades community back in the early 2000s. Some of you may have remembered the Renewable Energy Initiative that was passed in this state, requiring local utilities to increase the amount of renewable energy in their portfolios over time, and those goals ramp up over time. And so to bring the construction trades community on board with that initiative, they negotiated an apprentice incentive within that renewable energy initiative. And so if there are 2 wind farms being built, for instance, and one developer decides that they are going to use apprentices on their wind farm, and the other developer does not use apprentices on their wind farm, and the apprentice-built wind farm comes before the Apprenticeship Council in the state of Washington and seeks and receives certification of those apprentice labor hours, that they achieve 15% or more use of apprentice labor. The wind farm that was built using apprentice labor gets to sell their 1 megawatt of power, and the utility that buys it gets to count that as 1.2 megawatts of power in their renewable energy portfolio. And as I waded into this, when the initiative passed, we had to write rules. And I quickly discovered that these renewable energy credits, or RECs as they call them in the industry, are cash money. And I will tell you what, my dad always told me, if you want to know what's going on, follow the money. And this is one instance where that incentive in the private marketplace has proved very successful. We have certified, I believe, to date 6 renewable energy projects, a fairly diverse set of projects. We had 1 fish ladder project on the Cushman Dam, which is an incremental efficiency improvement for the power that they're able to generate. And then close to Centralia College here, we had, they did the turbine rebuilds on the Mossy Rock Dam, and that was also an incremental efficiency improvement project. So very interesting in terms of how you can incentivize this capitalist system that we live in to respond. And if you put incentives out like this renewable energy piece, you can certainly employ apprentices on these projects. So that's very exciting. Now I'm going to turn to some of the expansion initiatives just to kind of get you up to date. So be careful what you ask for. We've been saying that apprenticeship is the way to go, and apparently the national and state leaders are listening. You certainly heard that yesterday. And so there's been a lot of grant money that's been put on the table. And the Department of Labor, with a number of partners, has to date, I think we're at $7.9 million in grants that we've won over the last year and a half. And we're just about ready to ink the deal on another $500,000 state grant to build out registered youth apprenticeship, which I'll speak to here in a minute. So a lot of money coming at you. You got to do something with that money, when you get it. So that's been a lot of work. But our first award was a 5-year, $5 million American Apprenticeship Initiative grant through the federal government. And we went into that with some high-powered information technology partners. And we were successful in our bid. And so $3.5 million of that $5 million grant is dedicated towards building apprenticeship pathways into information technology occupations. And we are working with the Washington Technology Industry Association. They are bringing partners to the table like Amazon, Microsoft, F5, and others to implement an apprenticeship training track within multiple occupations within that industry. One of the drivers behind that effort from the IT side was that they simply were not getting from our traditional educational system what they needed. And one of the stories that was told to me by a Microsoft executive was they were in conversations with, I think it was a university down in Texas, and they were telling the deans and the leadership at the college that they needed to change their computer science program. And they gave them recommendations for implementing change. And they asked the leadership at the university, when can you get this implemented? And the answer came back, well, within 2 years we should be able to get that, up and running. And Microsoft just kind of was dismayed and said, well, that's about 2 years too late. And I sense that growing frustration within IT in terms of having to retrain or upskill folks that are coming out of our traditional systems drove them to create their own workforce development pathway to gain leverage in this conversation going forward. So we're really excited about that and believe that our IT partners really have an opportunity to change the face of apprenticeship, which has been dominated by the building construction trades, continues to be dominated by them to this day. But this really is the first energy that I've seen come into the system that could push the envelope in terms of outcomes. We have seen tremendous outcomes from our system thanks to the collectively bargained wages of our union sponsors of apprenticeship. And these IT partners coming in are going to be producing the same wage outcomes and potentially higher wage outcomes than our building trades folks. So that's very exciting. And they frankly could, over time, rival the trades in terms of numbers. So as my hope is to retire with somewhere in the neighborhood of 20,000 plus apprentices in the state of Washington, and I've got 4.5 years before I want to retire. So my money's on IT to really help us grow and expand this system and pull those exceptional numbers in. So exciting stuff. In addition to the $3.5 million we dedicated towards building out IT, we put $1.5 million into the pipeline to the trades, and we are trying to build out apprenticeship preparation programs, get the preparation programs that are operating in various communities around the state formally connected with registered programs so that there's an articulated pathway for those students to gain apprenticeship opportunities in the building construction trades. And one of the things that came to us in that discussion, apprenticeship, as many of you may know, is under the federal guidelines which require affirmative action and a focus on diversity in your applicant pool. And so for many, many years in the state system, we had a new to point to is about our only program, and it's a hard conversation when you're in Spokane and you're talking to apprenticeship sponsors in Spokane. You're telling them they need more women in their program, and the only option you have for them is in Seattle, and it's a little program called ANEW. That just was not getting us much traction over the last several decades. But what we're seeing through this new energy and this new focus around preparatory training and recognized preparatory programs through our Apprenticeship Council is really a drive to get formal in that industry and really develop programs that have high benchmarks for quality and success of their students. We have seen a lot of interest generated around this pre-apprenticeship piece. We are similar to the apprenticeship utilization requirements. We're having some growing pains in that arena. Our council is poised and ready to convene a conversation around next steps for apprenticeship preparation, recognition, and formalizing that entire system. One of the things that we know we have to do is build better data so that we can have, again, a central repository for data, which brings me to our next grant initiative. So we got the $5 million 5-year American Apprenticeship Initiative, and that wasn't quite enough for us, I guess, so we dove in a little deeper, and we got, just last fall, we got awarded $2.7 million, and it was an American Apprenticeship Initiative expansion grant. And we brought several partners to the table to pull that one off. One of the key pieces in that USA expansion grant was for L&I to update our apprentice registration and tracking system. We affectionately call it ARTS. And so this expansion money is giving us an opportunity to upgrade ARTS, and we're going to call it ARTS 2.0, just because I don't have anything else to call it. Everybody knows ARTS. In that build out of that new system, we want to create an apprenticeship preparation class cohort tracking option. So we do want to build an option for our recognized pre-apprenticeship programs to record their classes, come back in, tell us who completes, who does not complete, and then, if we can get a name and one other identifying characteristic that shows up on our apprentice registration forms, we will be able to better see who's being successful in that preparatory pipeline, who's actually feeding diversity into our system, and then support and grow those programs as we go forward. So exciting stuff, and thankfully the federal and the state governments are putting some resources in to allow us to do these things. So in addition to that IT technology piece at L&I, we partnered with, one of our partners is Employment Security Department, and Marie Bruin and her staff are leading an effort to build an apprenticeship micro-page in association with their worksourcewa.com, right? Did I get that right, Marie? Yeah, so they have, ESD has put together this WorkSourceWA platform, which is built on the monster.com technology. And it's a great interactive platform for employers and job seekers to come together and make good matches. So we're going to build this apprenticeship microsite, which is really hopefully going to be a platform which will enable us to better integrate registered apprenticeship within our traditional workforce development system. We have a lot of touch points, and some work better in some regions than others, but we feel like if we can create a central repository where those intersections can be highlighted and drawn out, and employers that go into that system can learn about apprenticeship, job seekers can learn about apprenticeship opportunities. I would love for our apprentices to be able to learn how to navigate the unemployment system. We're having a lot of problems there. So we want it to be a platform where, whether it's folks coming from the apprenticeship system trying to navigate what supports there might be in workforce development and employment security, or vice versa, employers and job seekers coming into that system wanting to learn more about apprenticeship. So that's very exciting, and we look forward to that effort really tying us together going forward in terms of that integration piece. In addition to those two technology pieces, we have the Washington State Labor Council as one of our partners, Carrie Pierce. She can run, but she can't hide from me. And so the State Labor Council, represents our organized labor unions in the state in mass, and they bring to the table a lot of experience with running apprenticeship programs. What we're finding in terms of our existing apprenticeship platforms, we have employers that are associated, union employers, non-union employers, that are associated with apprenticeship programs but don't use apprentices. They have the option, but they just haven't warmed up to the business plan that says, okay, we need that apprentice as part of our crew. So part of Carrie's effort will be to educate, those bench sitters that have the opportunity right now to employ apprentices, and then explore other collective bargaining agreements that may not reflect apprentice training, and get some of these other organizations thinking about structured on-the-job training as part of their collective bargaining platforms. Training is a great benefit. It benefits the employer and the worker more so than any other program in our state. So we look for exciting things coming out of Carrie's work. In addition to Carrie, we have the Aerospace Joint Apprenticeship Committee folks, and is anybody from AJAC here? I didn't see anybody from AJAC. Oh, Jesse's here, right on. So with our AJAC partners, they're hard to keep up with, but we were able to wrangle them into this grant, and they are working with us to build out registered youth apprenticeship. And you probably heard about that yesterday. I'm guessing the governor sings that praise of that registered youth apprenticeship everywhere he goes, so I'm sure you heard about that. But AJAC is really helping us to navigate that K-12, K-14 system and how we can pull kids out at a much younger age and connect them with these registered training opportunities. And it was a wonderful event. They had a signing day in Tacoma at one of their local machine shops. And the governor was invited to speak. And I was overwhelmed. I said a few words there, but I was overwhelmed by just the energy in the room and just the good feeling tone. When you bring high school kids in and you're connecting them with a registered apprenticeship opportunity, there's good energy to be had. So the governor came in, he felt that same energy, cleared his calendar for the rest of the day and stuck around so that he could speak to everyone individually and learn more about what was going on. So he has certainly been a champion of our system, and AJAC is doing wonderful work. Through this American Apprenticeship Initiative effort, we are partnering with AJAC. They are already committed to growing apprenticeship within their platform, and we're going to contract with them through this grant effort to grow that across other industries, use their expertise, their knowledge. They've done a lot of work. Believe it or not, it can be kind of maddening going in and negotiating with local school districts. We have to achieve some economies of scale so that we don't have to figure out 100 different ways to do this. We can come up with 3 or 4 models that can work in any community around the state. So their energy and their expertise in that regard will be greatly appreciated as we build out the youth pathways. Another exciting piece of the expansion grant is coming out of the healthcare industry. And we've tried over the years to kind of bust a move within our healthcare industries in terms of registered apprenticeship. The nursing community doesn't want to have anything to do with us. I sensed years ago that the nurses felt that doing an apprenticeship would be a step back. They're chasing master's degrees and higher degrees. We did not get much traction in that. So we've kind of backed up and we've kind of reassessed how are we going to make a move into this non-traditional industry. And we've developed a relationship with the Washington Association of Community and Migrant Healthcare Centers. And these folks are doing some very innovative things across our rural healthcare networks. And they are, through some grant monies that they have achieved in partnership with us, they are building apprenticeship pathways in medical and dental assisting, and they are contemplating an additional occupation in a community health worker. They have shown great success in our rural communities. There's not a lot of options oftentimes for formalized training within those rural markets, and so registered apprenticeship has proven to be a wonderful fit. And we in association with our apprenticeship council, we have a tribal liaison subcommittee, and local area tribes. Washington has 29 federally recognized tribes, and they all have community health clinics. And we've recently made connections with our community migrant healthcare center folks and our tribes, and the tribes are taking this very excitedly into their communities, and we are seeing implementation of apprenticeship within some tribal community health centers. So that's very exciting. It's just amazing to me when my job is just to kind of make sure people are talking, but when you get people talking and you figure out that they have common interests, the results are phenomenal. So anyway, Carrie just gave me the 3-minute hook sign. She did say originally that I could go over, so I'm going to take that. I may go over just a little bit. So anyway, I want to make sure I don't leave anybody out. ESD, Community Migrant Health, AJAC. I think I've got all of our partners. Yes, I did. Okay. So I guess to make a long story short, my notes here say that I could go on and on and on and on, and I could. But apprenticeship is alive and well in the state of Washington. You should be very proud to know that when we get on a national stage, we wow the living daylights out of the rest of the country. They are just amazed at the things we're doing here in Washington State. And one great example of this is our focus on diversity within the apprenticeship pipeline. And the rest of the country is hovering around 2 to 3%. Female participation in the building, construction, trade occupations, and in Washington State we are at 7%, and we know we can do much better. We have some would think very hard, tough occupations. The iron workers out of Seattle are one very notable example of where you can go in and change a culture and make it inviting for women to participate and feel supported and nurtured within that ironworker environment. The carpenters are making great strides. A number of our trades are making great strides in bringing women in and supporting them in these non-traditional occupations. Not that we have gotten rid of all the sexism and discrimination and harassment that exists out there. You've seen that on high nationally here lately, but we are continuing to combat that and bring that message of tolerance and diversity to the work site. So great things happening in Washington State. And I just want to leave you with the challenge. This is the Energy Summit, and so I was talking to Troy Nutter earlier, and so for folks within the energy sector, I know that security of our energy systems is key going forward, right, in terms of cyber hacking and things that are going on a global scale. One of the things that I've been talking with folks in this industry and some of our political leaders is around cybersecurity apprenticeships or network security administration. And one of the beautiful things about apprenticeship is that it's completely scalable. It can work for a small company with 1 or 2 employees and an apprentice, and it can work for an association like the Carpenters, the UBC JTC. Lisa, how many employers do you have in your system? How many employers? Over 1,000? I'm guessing you're one of the highest in terms of employers participating. So, we can go from just a single employer to an association that has 1,000 or more employers, and you can implement an apprenticeship training system. And so one of the things that I would challenge the energy sector to do is look through your public and private utility associations. Some of these smaller PUDs probably do not have the resources necessary to put together a high-quality formal training system around cybersecurity occupations. But within an association where you can achieve economies of scale, I'm guessing that you could do a lot of great work around a formalized apprenticeship training path for some of these critical occupations that will keep our energy system and that infrastructure safe going forward. And one of the best remedies is taking a little bit of concerted action up front. And if we have better trained people doing the work, producing better software, it's going to be more secure, and our whole system of energy will be safe going forward. So with that, Carrie is ready to hook me, and I see Lee Nugent just walked into the room, so it is time for me to get the heck out of the way. And I will leave you with just that challenge to look at your cybersecurity efforts across your utility associations. We can work with you to scale apprenticeship up to make us all safer. Thank you very much.